Hello Year 2, this week I'm going to be asking you to write your own alternative traditional tale for Jack and the Beanstalk. So I thought I'd give you a bit of inspiration by sharing with you a couple of the alternative traditional tales that I have in class. The first one is called Who's Bad, Who's Good, Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood. It wasn't her real name, it was just what everyone called her because she was little and always wore a red cloak with a hood. One day her mum asked her to take some cupcakes and soup to her grandma who lived in the woods. "Stick to the path and don't talk to strangers," said her mum. "And if you do meet a stranger, yell, run and tell." "Who should I tell?" asked Little Red Riding Hood. "Someone you know, or a policeman, or a person in a shop," replied her mum. On the way to Grandma's house, Little Red Riding Hood heard someone coughing behind a tree. "Hello, what are you doing out here all by yourself?" he croaked. "A stranger!" gasped Little Red Riding Hood. "I'm going to Grandma's house, so leave me alone!" she yelled. She ran and ran until she met a rabbit. "Oh, hello, what's wrong?" asked Rabbit. "I'm on my way to Grandma's house with some cakes and soup and I saw a big bad wolf, but I yelled and ran away," gabbled Little Red Riding Hood. "Oh dear, how awful," said Rabbit. "Why don't you pick some flowers for your dear Grandma? Then I'll come with you to help keep you safe." "Oh, thank you," said Little Red Riding Hood. "That would be lovely." She doesn't meet a rabbit in the traditional tale that we all know, does she? So that's new. While Little Red Riding Hood picked flowers, she told Rabbit all about her grandma. She's very old and she still lives by herself. Mum says it's not safe for her to be all alone, especially when she's got so much jewellery. "I can't wait to meet her," said Rabbit. Meanwhile, the wolf arrived huffing and puffing at Grandma's cottage. "Knock, knock, knock, knock." He knocked on the door, then went inside. When Little Red Riding Hood arrived at the cottage, she found someone snuggled up in Grandma's bed wearing a nightie and a cap. "Oh, Grandma, what big eyes you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Well, they must work better than yours," replied the wolf. "I'm not your grandma." "Oh, it's the wolf!" shrieked Little Red Riding Hood. "He's eaten your grandma," said the rabbit. "Oh no, Grandma!" wailed Little Red Riding Hood. "Yes, dear," replied Grandma, walking into the room carrying a tea tray. "What on earth is the matter?" "Oh, I thought this big bad wolf had eaten you," cried Little Red Riding Hood. "I didn't," croaked the wolf. "He was about to," cried Rabbit, moving towards the door. But just then, crash! A policeman burst in. "Thank goodness you're here," cried Little Red Riding Hood. "Arrest him." "I will," said the policeman, and he grabbed Rabbit by the ears. "Will someone please tell me what's going on here?" shouted Little Red Riding Hood. Rabbit's looking very angry there, isn't he? So Grandma told her, "Mr. Wolf is a friend of mine. He came to warn me that you were all alone in the woods and that you were talking to strangers, so we called the police. Mr. Wolf looked poorly when he got here, so I made him put on something warm and get him to bed. Then I made him some tea." "Ah, so that's why you're wearing Grandma's nightie and cap," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Yes," replied the wolf. "I might look silly, but I'm lovely and warm." "Even though you yelled and ran away, you told me where you were going and you spoke to Rabbit, but you didn't know him either," said Mr. Wolf. "But it's really nice," argued Little Red Riding Hood. "No, he isn't," said the policeman. "This is the famous bunny burglar. We've been after him for ages." The policeman tripped Rabbit's bag upside down and out fell Little Red Riding Hood's cupcakes, the soup, Grandma's jewellery and many things they'd never even seen before. The policeman led Rabbit away. "I was so sure Rabbit was good and Wolf was bad," sighed Little Red Riding Hood. "You can't always tell who's bad and who's good. Mr. Wolf is lovely, and now you know him, he's not a stranger," said Grandma. Little Red Riding Hood looked over at Mr. Wolf, who was sitting in bed, drinking tea and still wearing Grandma's nightie and cap. Well, he might not be a stranger, giggled Little Red Riding Hood, but he definitely looks strange. The end. I hope you enjoyed that book. I'm going to be reading another one in another video, so tune in.